So greetings and welcome back to Conscious Reality, where we only speak on love, relationships, and spirituality, and everything between that. Listen, today I want to speak on something very important. I want to speak on before we go back to someone, before we give them another chance, okay? Because I think many of us are driven to give people, more chances because we feel like we miss them. We feel like we're in love. We feel like we don't want to pass up a good thing. We feel like maybe they made a mistake. We feel this thing, but I want to explain some things. I want to go in deeper in this discussion. But before I go deeper, please, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and click on the notification button right there so that I can know that you are interested in what I got to say, so I can make more videos on the things that bother us or the things that limit our growth. Because that's what I do. I speak on love, relationships, and spirituality. All three are needed and necessary. All right, let's go.
Conscious reality.
So, before you take someone back, I want you to think about these things that I'm about to tell you. Very important things. And none is more important than the next, okay? Very simple. But let us go deeper for a second. Let us go deeper, because many of us struggle with the idea of being away from someone. Many of us struggle with the idea of not taking them back. Many of us struggle with the idea, well, maybe, what if they with someone else and someone else eat the fruits of my labor? Somebody else is benefiting from the fruits of my labor. I've been struggling with him or her for so long. I don't want nobody else to experience that and actually become successful in the relationship with them. We struggle. We struggle with ourselves. Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I did something wrong. We struggle with them. Maybe they did something wrong. We begin to make excuses for them. But before we take somebody back, I want you to listen to these things. Number one, it doesn't make you weak because you want to go back. It doesn't make you weak. You know, the children of Israel keep going back to Egypt, or trying to go back to Egypt, to the Pharaoh, because when they get into the wilderness, see, right now, many of us are in the wilderness. We don't know what's going on. It looks different. It feels different. We're in an unknown territory. We are in an unknown place, so we don't know what's going on. So we keep looking back to Pharaoh, looking back to Egypt. So it's taking us forever. See, what was supposed to be a 10, 11 days journey, it's taking us years to recover. Some of us haven't recovered yet. It's been years from the breakup. And we still don't know how. We still want to go back. We still don't understand why we want to go back. We're still mad at ourselves for wanting to go back. Understand, when you're in a new place, the ego seeks for survival. It seeks for what's familiar. So therefore, you always want to go back to what you know. At least the known abuse, you recognize it more than the nothingness, the wilderness. The known abuse and disrespect is more attractive than the void, than the emptiness. So when the children of Israel was in the wilderness punished them because it was in an unknown place. It was in a place where they had to know themselves, where they had to figure themselves out, where they had to become stronger with them and their God. Their relationship with God had to grow. And some of us, our relationship with ourselves needs to grow, but it can't grow because we keep going back. We keep taking them back. So every time we take them back, we lose our connection to ourselves. Our own relationships with ourselves die. Sometimes. But let me not get too deep. Let's go deep for a second. Before you take somebody back, understand this. Number one, it's not that you necessarily miss them that much, but maybe you are against the idea that it's over. Let me tell you how dangerous that is. When you don't accept something, you resist it. And when you resist something, it comes harder. It's drawn to you even more. If you tell your mind, don't think about the monkey stays on your mind. You see the monkey everywhere you go. You go to the store, it's there. You look up in the sky, it's there. You look on the TV, the monkey is there. The monkey begins to be your focus. And you're going to always be drawn to the monkey. You're going to always go to the spot that the monkey is. Why? Because your energy is magnetic. It's pulling the experience of the monkey there. That's why the monkey can't leave your mind. So if you try to resist the idea that it is over, it's not because you love them. See, when you resist something, the amount of energy that you send to it You begin to think on it. You begin to ruminate on it. Your mind stays on it. So that you begin to think that you need it. It feels stronger. It's a heavier feeling. So you feel like you miss it even more. You feel like you love it even more because the resistance, you are sending the vibration or the strong energy towards that one thing that you resist. See, whatever you resist persists because the energy that you are giving it, it is excessive. And when you give something that much energy, you begin to convince yourself that you love this thing. You begin to convince yourself that you can't live without it only because you are trying to resist it. So many times when we leave somebody, we resist the idea that is broken up. We resist the idea that is over. We resist the idea. And sometimes even if you want to end the relationship first, if they did it first and you lost control and you begin to resist, you want it back. You want to go back into a relationship because your ego is effing with you. Resistance is something that we don't understand with the ego. Whatever you resist is drawn to you. When you miss that person, a lot of times you're not thinking straight because your emotions are all over the place. So you're not thinking straight. So your decisions are just based on feelings. That's why we want to go back sometimes. See, when you have all this emotional stuff going on, when you miss somebody, your emotions are telling you all these things. You begin to go left, right, up, down, and you listen to your emotions because your feelings are strong. We have to be aware. No matter what we feel, we have to think logically. We have to think, does this make sense? See, you have to question your feelings. I know I love him, I love her, but does this feeling make sense of going back? See, it's not a matter of love, because we are allowed to love people that's no longer in our lives. We are allowed to love people, but don't want them back. We are allowed to forgive people, but let them be, let them free. We are allowed to love people and still be without them. We have to understand those things. See, many of us, we want to love people and keep them there because we love them. Sometimes love says that I must free you. Because when I free you, I free myself. Many of us can't be freed because we carry so much connections and people in our spirits, so we can't be free. And when we carry so much connections in our spirit, we are always influenced to feel and to feel and to feel and do stupid things. People can muster up their own feelings within themselves and connect to you. Next thing you know, you're feeling horny, you're feeling this, you're feeling angry because you are connected to someone that you're not aware of. So I'm saying sometimes when you are with these people, when you leave them people, you have all these emotions going on and you begin to stop thinking logically because you begin to think with your emotions because you're not thinking common sense, you're thinking emotional senses. This is why you must understand when you leave somebody, emotions are going to go up. When the emotions go up and go over, it's okay. It's natural. It's normal. It's a normal reaction. You still have to become aware that you still have the choice. You still have the power to choose what you want to do. You have the ability to choose wisely. You have to remember this. And to choose wisely, you have to ask some questions. The second thing that I want to remind you of is this. Your ego is fighting to keep them there. See, when you break up with someone, especially if you've been with them for years, months, 6 years, see, that person has now within you created an identity. You know, if that's my wife, if that's your husband, if that's my husband, understand this. If you are with somebody, your identity that you created carries that person too. And one thing about the ego that you have to understand, the ego hates change. It hates change. Change triggers your ego. When the ego don't recognize something else or something that's from the past, the ego gets confused. Who am I? What am I doing? See, that's why when you leave that person, even though the relationship was crappy, understand this one thing. The ego does not care if it was a bad relationship, if it was abusive, if it was dangerous. The ego don't care. The ego recognizes that you are alive. The ego's job is to protect you from death. That's it. That's the ego's job, to keep you alive. Whether the relationship was bad, it was toxic, it was abusive, the ego still knows this is where it's familiar. This is where I live. This is what I know. And I hate change. So I'm going to bring up memories that reminded you of how good things were. I'm going to bring up memories to tell you that maybe he made a mistake. Maybe she was just, I'm going to bring up things to tell you all the good things that we did. All the good things that they did, because the ego's job is to keep you in the same place, because the ego hates change. See, the ego and the spirit is different. The spirit wants to be free, but the ego wants to be bound to physical things, to the touch, to the voice, something that they recognize. You see, when you leave somebody and you go in that wilderness where you don't recognize, where you are no longer that identity, where you are no longer in a relationship, where you can no longer identify with that person, the ego goes crazy. And that's why you always go back, because you need something that's familiar. That's why many of us go back, because we don't know, is the ego speaking? Because we haven't recognized or acknowledged the ego's need for validation. The ego's need to be recognized or stroked. So it tricks us. Another example is this. If I say to myself, I want to lose 20 pounds. Do you know why these resolutions don't change do you know why these resolutions don't work? It's because when you give yourself time to start something, the ego don't want to change. So you give the ego time to go against what you want. So all of a sudden you want to lose 20 pounds. The ego convinces you, well, maybe not 20, maybe 19. You know what? Let's lose 1 pound. Let's just stop there. Why you want to lose 20 pounds anyway? You look fine. I'm gonna like, who cares? Nobody cares. Your ego begin to talk you out of it, because the ego don't like to change. Please understand, the ego in the wilderness is very scary. The ego always want to go back to what it knows. Slavery, to their boss, to that broken home. That's why everybody always go back. Out there is scary. The unfamiliar, is scary to many people. That's why people hate the unknown. That's why the unknown trigger people. When you don't know where you're at or what you're doing, you lose it. You get anxiety. It doesn't look familiar, so the mind don't have anything to reflect on, and you get scared. This is the biggest reason why we go back. The ego can't take the newness of that quiet, that stillness, no touching, no feelings, no sex. When the ego is in that situation, who am I? What am I doing? Then people begin to say, I feel so lost. I feel so lost. You're not lost. You're just in a new place. The truth is, you're not lost. You don't lose yourself. You're just in a new place that you don't recognize. See, many people, I've lost myself. You haven't lost yourself. You are in your new place where you are not recognizing, because you cannot identify with what you knew, who you knew, what you was doing. So therefore, it's time to rebuild yourself. Not to try to go back to what you knew, because what you knew, that old self, it wasn't good enough. It wasn't strong enough. That's why you was broken. This time now, when you realize that you are easily broken, fix yourself. Don't want to go back to a place where you were broken. Do you get it? You got to be careful. The ego's job is to keep you in the same place. Because you have to understand this. The ego's place is to not keep you happy. It's not to bring you peace. It's not for you to feel love or to feel good. The ego's job is to keep you in the same place so that you won't change. And whatever you got to do, it will do it. When you recognize the ego and understand how it works, it's not an enemy. It's not a bad thing. But when you recognize the ego, you know how to go beyond it. You know how to go above it. And you know how to calm it down. So when you want to go back to that person, when you feel that strong urge, it's just your ego just want to be familiar. You want to be back to what it knows. It's okay. The body craves it. The ego craves it. But you don't have to obey the ego. You can recognize the ego and say, hey, I see you. And be okay. You have a choice. But before you go with this person, if that didn't work, before you go with this person, understand, number one, you are still emotional. You are in an emotional place. So before you go back, you have to ask these questions to yourself. Did this person recognize my value? Seriously. And think about the things that they did to you. How they did it. How they ignored you. How they disrespected you on purpose, intentionally. Did this person actually recognize my value? And if the answer is no, you have your answer. Stay away. You have to ask those questions, because if not, your emotions will trick you. Number two, did I experience more love or more pain? Be honest. Let your mind go to all the things that you experience. You see, like how some relationships, you will see more pain than love. You will have more arguments than peaceful experiences. Some relationship comes to a point where you're always bickering, always fighting? Have I experienced more pain or more pleasure? And I ain't talking about sexual pleasure. I'm talking about, have you experienced more pain or more love? And be honest with yourself. If the answer is no, if the answer is you experience more pain than love, it's off balance. That's your ego just talking on want to go back because you miss it. And number 3, do I see myself being with this person, marrying this person, if this person never changed? If this person stays who he or she is, am I okay being with that person? Am I okay marrying that person? Am I okay if the person will never change again? This is it. This is all you're going to get. Should I go back? Because again, you get the person that you pick, not the one you think that they have the potential to be. And a lot of us are picking partners based on potential. If a person never changed, you have to question, can I be or stay with this person? And sometimes, to be honest, some people never change. That's it. They have reached their maximum level of change, and that's all you're going to meet. So don't expect any kind of elevation to their frequency, because they don't elevate. It's it. That's it. That's a wrap. So ask those questions so that if it's your ego speaking, at least you will know the difference. Because those questions will question your ego. Was I more happy than sad? Did a person recognize my value? Did a person recognize my worth by the way how they treated me? Did they respect me? Ask those questions and be honest with yourself. And if they didn't, yet you feel like you want to go back and you feel like you missed them and you feel like you need to go back, that's your ego trying to find validation and survival. That's it. And it's okay if the ego does that, but when you recognize it, the ego calms down. Because the truth is, when you leave somebody, you're going to miss them. You're going to miss them a lot. The body's going to miss them. Because remember, that entanglement is still there. So when the body begin to separate from them, the spirit, the soul begin to untie, understand, you're going to feel pressure. You're going to feel pain. It's going to hurt. It's going to feel a separation. And when you begin to feel a separation, you always try to call them or go back. Let the spirit do what it do. Let it set itself free. Do nothing. Let the process happen. Some of you will think, I need healing. You don't need healing. It's the process of detangling, or, well, what's the word? It's the process of, let's just say this for better term, unentangling, disentangling. I don't know. I didn't even go to school for those words. I'm not even going to edit these words because I want to use these words. It's a process of disentangling from soul to soul, spirit from spirit. So it's a process. You're going to feel this separation. Your body's going to miss them because the body keeps score. The body remembers. So therefore, the body's going to miss their touch, miss their loving, miss their kisses, miss their caress. It's going to miss it. It's the process. The body has to get rid of it. See, some of y'all can't wait. Some of y'all are so ready to just, you want to try to go to the next, so you want to go to a next man or next woman to move on. You can't do it. That's not how it works. It's a strong entanglement. It's a strong entanglement. You got to detangle. So you got to detangle yourself. Takes time. But just because you feel that strong entanglement doesn't mean that you have to go back. Listen, going back is a choice. Going back is, you got to think about it. But these are things to think about. I'm just giving you tools to think about before you go back and make a stupid decision again. Because every time we go back, to leave is harder. Every time we go back, leaving, it hurts you even more. Every time we keep going back, when the universe is telling you to leave, every time you don't listen, you punish a little bit more. It punishes you a little bit more harder. A little bit more punishment. You suffer a little more. Some of you suffering for years. Every year you're suffering because you leave and you go back. You leave. Stop doing that. Understand there's a process to leaving somebody because the spirit and the body have to detangle. Let it do it on its own time. Relax. Just relax. Just because you feel a feeling doesn't mean that you have to do anything about it. So I hope you understand what I'm saying. I hope you get it. I'm not going to edit this video. I'm going to just let it play. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet and you want more of this type of information, because people don't talk about this thing, People tell you to grow up, just leave, know your worth. By the way, I want to make a video about knowing your worth because I think we get that knowing your worth completely different. We don't understand what it means. Everybody repeat it, but you don't know what it means. And I'm going to teach you what it is. Can I do that? If you want to hear that video, comment in the bottom. Let me know. Let's detangle ourselves 2024. You all have a blessed day. Subscribe, like, and comment. Blessings.